Welcome back, Goku-san DBZ here, and welcome back for a new price charting list. This time, we are looking at a special series of survival horror games that are actually some of my personal favorites of all time. Easily one of probably the creepiest games I have ever played is the original classic Fatal Frame. We are looking at projection numbers and things for and trying to figure how things will go going forward. I will, for the most part, not be looking at Japanese or PAL releases, strictly the American releases, PS2 and Xbox for this. The third game, however, Torment, I could not find normal numbers for the Xbox, unfortunately. But first up, we have Fatal Frame 1, released, of course, in the US. First looking at the PS2 version. Uh, First, we have it was at this time last year, October of 2021, on average, Fatal Frame 1 was trending for about 69.54. Interesting number. As of the same time this year, it is right now trending for 78.71. So it has actually seen a $10 increase over the past year, or really $9 increase. Still, it is an increase nevertheless. It is not the most common game to find, and because of seeing some re-releases now of specifically the fourth and fifth game, though the fourth game is now getting ready to come out soon. Can't wait. Physical, I believe it's only going to be exclusively through PlayAsia like the previous game. So if you want a physical version for Switch or PS4, you will have to get through PlayAsia. But with that said, how I see going forward, I think Fatal Frame 1 is going to continue going up. I don't think it will like skyrocket or anything. I think it will keep a steady going up, in my personal opinion, looking at definitely certain numbers and things moving forward. Now, funny enough, it was the polar opposite for the original Xbox version. Um, Last year at this time, the Xbox version of Fatal Frame 1 was going for $88.94. This year is going for right around 70 even. So it actually saw an almost $19 decrease in value, while the PS2 version saw almost a $9 increase. So it's interesting. Last year at this time, there was definitely an overwhelming amount Xbox was going for more. Now, this year, right now, it's going for about $8 less than the PS2 version. I think it's because there's more PS2 collectors or more PS2 collectors out there that are interested in the Fatal Frame games, but more cautious on buying, which is why I think the price has gone up a little slowly over time. Now, how do I see Fatal Frame on the original Xbox going forward? Right now, I think it's going to stay relatively steady. It's hard to say. It could go down more or it could go back up. It's really hard to say. The Xbox version I don't know quite as much about its ports and overall how many copies it sold compared to the PS2. I've always known better about the PS2 versions, as it was the versions I usually always saw for sale at like Babbage's and Electronics Boutique. But with that said, next up, my personal favorite of the series, Fatal Frame 2, Crimson Butterfly. At this time last year for the PS2 version, Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly was going for around $72.66. So it was going for a little bit more, obviously about $3 more than the first game. This year, however, Crimson Butterfly has actually gone up quite a bit from last year. It has gone up now to over $90. So it has seen around an $18 increase. So it's actually gone up way more than the first game. First game went $9, while Crimson Butterfly saw a $18 increase. That's quite a jump from previous year. One, it is October, so I'm not surprised, but two, because this is pretty much the most beloved game in the franchise for many fans, especially the original trilogy of games. How do I see going forward? I think it is going to continue going up. I could see it steadily stay relatively calm and stay steady and just briefly go up like the first game, or it might go up more. It's hard to say. I don't think it's going to see a huge drop, though, because it is the more sought after of the trilogy. Now, with that said, looking at the original Xbox version, like the original Xbox version of the first game, it has also gone down weirdly enough while the PS2 has gone up. But at this time last year, it was going for about just shy of $79 for the second game for Xbox. This year is going for just shy of $70, so it's all about a $9 decrease in the value over the past year. Now, with that said, next up, like I said, I could not find any real concrete info numbers-wise for the Xbox version. But next up is the third game in the trilogy, and that is Fatal Frame 3 Torment, which definitely, or rather Tormented, which is an interesting game to say the least, compared to the first two games. The second game by far has, in my opinion, the best overall story, personal opinion. But with that said, first up, we only have info really on this on the PS2. At this time last year, Fatal Frame 3 was going for about $77.81, which is still a decent amount. At this time this year, it is going for around $89.76, so it has seen about a $12 jump from year prior. Again, not surprised, especially since I don't hear anyone ever talk about the Xbox version of the third game. I only ever hear people talk about the PS2 version. So I think that is one of the biggest contributing factors as to why this game specifically has gone up more. How do I see it moving forward? I think it's going to stay relatively steady for now. It could go up more, but I think for now it is going to slow down a little and maybe stay relatively steady for now, just because it's not quite as sought after as the second game. Still, and surprisingly, of the three, it's the one I hear less people talk about. People always talk about the creepiness of the first game or the better story overall of the second game, but I never really hear people talk about Fatal Frame 3 that much, which is interesting, as I think it's actually one of the better games in the series. Personal opinion. Next up, quickly, before we get on to the others, quickly mention a little side game. Even though it doesn't actually have the Fatal Frame name, it's still interesting in the fact that it was a handheld game, released exclusively to the 3DS as it remains to this day. And of course, it is called Spirit Camera. As of course, this whole series is based off the ancient superstitions from Japan in like Shinto and other groups or religious spiritualities that believe you could actually have your soul sucked out by a camera. Interesting superstition, but you always expect that at the time, depending on the culture and everything, beliefs, as it was always more about the traditional teaching and belief of respecting, like, nature, the spirits of nature and everything in Shinto. So with that said, first up looking at the American version, then the PAL version of the game. Now, surprisingly, I couldn't find any info on a Japanese version through Pricecharting. But this time last year, it was going for $34.86. This year is going for about $36.20. So it has only seen a little over $1, like 50 increase. It hasn't seen a big increase at all. I think moving forward, I do think it is gonna stay probably most likely steady. It could go up maybe another dollar or some. But especially though with the digital store gone down now basically, I think you will start seeing a slow, steady incline on the price of the game, honestly. The PAL version, this time last year it was $27.33. This year it is going for $31.72. So while the US version saw about $1.50, $1.60 increase, the PAL version actually saw like a $4 increase. So a decent amount more, over twice the increased numbers, which I find fascinating. But I think it is going to stay relatively steady, though it might go up again more, since it's actually jumped up more than the US version, which I actually think is fascinating. Next up, we are looking at Fatal Frame um, Mask of the Lunar Eclipse, which has yet to be officially released here. Still waiting for a physical and see how much it goes for. But the Japanese version, which of course it was a Nintendo Wii exclusive and Japanese only. This time last year it was going for $50, which is a bit more than your average game on the Wii. This year it's going for $71, so it's on a $21 increase. I think it's going to go up, honestly, as there's more interest with the re-release coming. Some might say that would decrease, but given it's a Japanese only exclusive and a Wii exclusive at that, Nintendo game exclusives tend to hold their value more, or the original format version. Next up, I'm going to show, before I though officially talk about the re-release, of course, next up is the fifth game in the series called Fatal Frame Maiden of Blackwater. Um, Originally released exclusively to Japan and exclusively to the Nintendo Wii U, which is interesting. So, no surprise, it is actually hovering around the $70 range. I'm not surprised with the more interest in the game now, because the remastered re-releases. Now, with that said, next up we are looking at the first, and we are looking at both Japanese and American versions. So, with that said, first up, the Switch Japanese version, on average, is going for, was trending for last year at the time, $38.67. Not much. This time this year, it is trending for actually $48.10 for the Japanese version. So it has seen a $10 increase on the remastered version on Switch. Not surprised, as in general, these games have actually always been more successful in Japan. It's always leaned and been more intrigued, except for those here in the West. It's more of a novelty. It's more of a niche audience here in the West, more so. Which is unfortunate that way with a lot of survival horror games, unfortunately. But I think it's probably going to continue going up a little bit in Japan. Now, with the American version for Switch, it was last year going for $53.66. This year's going for $43.70. So it has seen basically a $10 decrease in the American version, which I find kind of weird, personally. I'm very surprised. So while the Japanese saw a $10 increase, the Americans saw a $10 decrease, which is interesting. Next up, the PS4 version. The Japanese version this time last year was $38.10. This year, it's going for $51.84. So it has seen about a $13 increase from last year in the Japanese market. I think it's also going to continue going up, most likely. And then, last but not least, the remaster for PS4 US version. At this time last year, it was trending for $49.59. Some might say $50, and this year it's going for $50.18. So it has seen probably about 50 to 60 cent increase, which is not much at all. I think it will steadily go up, especially with now the release of the remaster for the previous game, which I'm looking forward to. But like I said, if you want a physical version of the fifth game or the new one getting a re-release, get it through PlayAsia. You'll get normal price, very reasonable, as I believe it is like $39.99, like $40 new. That's not bad, honestly, in my opinion, price-wise. More than with the price. But with that said, I'll see you next time. Stay safe and have a good and happy upcoming Halloween. And to anybody down south of Mexico and stuff, have a good Day of the Dead. I'll see y'all next time. Stay safe. and I hopefully enjoyed the Resident Evil music.